video will be titled Black People and Symbolic Victories. People, the powerful people, the white people, they understand that black people are so fucked up, have been so deprived that black people have a very um weak view of success or whatever. So they understand that black people like symbolic victories. Like I'm gonna give you a good example. Like throughout Black history, you always have like such and such was the first black janitor. Such and such was the first black teacher. Such and such was the first black piano player. Such that kind of shit. And that black people are taught to celebrate that type of shit because it's almost like saying that person have achieved white acceptance or white approval. Like Barack Obama is a great example. He's so-called the first black president, even though he's biracial. And black people are still in that symbolic victory mentality where a person can be black and he can be pretty much your enemy, or he can be he can have a very condescending view of you as a black person, and you'll still support him because we're not looking at concrete things in that person. We're just looking at the outside. Here's the thing about black people. There are a lot of black people who are against you. There are a lot of black people who are basically agents of white people for white people. They'll use their skin tone like a chameleon uses its skin tone to blend in certain environments. And that's what Barack Obama did. Barack Obama, he used his skin tone, the fact that he had some black in him to get the black vote. Even though he rarely did anything for black people and he has a very condescending view of black people will still go for that. And black people got to grow out of this symbolic victory bullshit and look beneath the surface and see if this person or whoever has any concrete things that he's done for black people. And I think a lot of so-called black leaders do this. A lot of black leaders will talk about the white man, and black people get riled up about that. But this black leader takes takes in thousands and thousands of dollars from black people who attend his events. But that so-called black leader doesn't do anything to really help black people. All he does is do the victim thing. We're victims. You see what I'm saying? That's all he do. The white man did this, white man did that. We understand all of that. But you've taken in money for decades from black people that goes into the millions, and you haven't done anything for black people or anything. You know what I'm saying? And most black leaders, all they so-called do is give a speech, but that's it. And because it's not all on the white people, because black people do a lot of self-defeating shit for black people. And white people, like I said before, they take advantage of that shit. They take it. Look at the black women back in the day on Phil Donahue. You know when they were talking about with all the talk shows and shit, talking about how black dudes ain't shit and all that. And white people take cues from that. They say, okay, this is the narrative. We're gonna run with this narrative and we're gonna use it to justify a lot of the things that we do. Just like how they put out gangster rap promoted black dudes as gangsters, and that fuels the prison industrial complex. Like I said, the media is used to socialize people into a certain way of thinking and a certain way of thinking about certain racial groups. A good example would be the Arabs. Aren't they looked upon as terrorists? Or the Native Americans were looked upon as terrorists in their own country, defending their own country. Black people, black dudes are looked upon as gangsters and negative shit. But this ain't just contained in hip hop. This shit been going on for centuries. You vilify a certain group in order to achieve a certain agenda. The media is the most powerful tool in indoctrinating people into certain belief systems. If you were to watch the news, you would think that white people didn't commit crimes because, trust me, every day there are thousands of crimes committed, if not more than that, on a daily basis. The news is only going to cover about maybe 1% of that shit. And these crimes are committed by people of various races, and the more majority is white because they're a bigger population. But they're going to they're going to report the black shit the most because it plays into the narrative that they're trying to create. It's just like Iraq. Didn't they talk Saddam Hussein as a terrorist to get people over here to back the war in Iraq? Even though it wasn't about terrorism at all, it was about stealing people's resources and controlling their government in order to get what we want from the government. They're still found no weapons of mass destruction because it wasn't about that in the first place. People need to become more politically astute. And if you're going to get all your news from the media, you have no choice but to think in such a basic way because the media indoctrinates you into a certain way of thinking and you can't see the other side. But that's all I wanted to say. I know I got off subject or whatnot, but it all ties in.